I'll give that a second. And we're recording. All
Okay,
right.
there we go.
Welcome back. We're doing another episode of Catching Up, where I, Dwayne Duke, catch up on pop culture that I missed from the last decade or so of being on the road. Today, my guest is Charley McMullen.
Couldn't be happier to be part of this, man.
How's it going? It looks warm there.
You'd think so. It's actually it's just cold enough to make you uncomfortable. It's not so cold that you got to do something about it, but it's just enough to piss you off.
It snowed for 4 days here.
Are you still in Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm sheltering in Cleveland at the moment, so that happened.
I'm not saying it couldn't be worse. I'm sure it could be.
But I went for a run this morning, and it was bearable. It was like high 40s.
It's too crowded to go for runs here. It's terrifying.
Oh, I just went in my neighborhood. I didn't go to like a track or anything. Just ran in my neighborhood around the block. I was the only one out. It was pretty nice.
I live in a horrible neighborhood. I didn't like going outside before this quarantine. I've never felt safer.
All right. So this week we are talking about two great a movie, Office Space, and a TV show, The Newsroom. Let's jump into the Office Space because I literally just finished it.
Nice.
We were supposed to do a different movie, but I could not find it anywhere for free, and I'm only sinking so much money into this project.
Right.
But yeah, Office Space, written, directed, and produced by Mike Judge. You want to give us a quick synopsis of?
Mike Judge. Most people know him from Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. Mike Judge was a huge inspiration to me when this came out. This movie came out in February of 1999. I was 20 years old. I saw this movie. There's a credit at the end that Mike Judge has since put in a lot of his movies where there's just one line after all the credits that says this movie was edited completely on a computer. And he did that because this was in 99 when people, like, the digital revolution of filmmaking was starting to kick up, where everybody was able to make a feature-length movie with just their camera and their computer. And Mike Judge would put that in there as a way to like get people to do it without, a studio or a budget or anything. I was one of those people. That was in 99, but a year later I was in film school having just finished my first script, and I credit Mike Judge with a lot of that.
Nice. All right, so a quick rundown of Office Space for anyone who hasn't seen this movie in the past decades.
It's the plot is it's about a corporation called Initech, which is just a data entry conglomerate, and word gets around the office that efficiency experts are going to be coming in and interviewing everyone about their jobs, and there's going to be layoffs. And one guy who really, not aggressively hates his job, but is really just depressed about his job, like everything associated with office culture, gets two other guys who are in line to be laid off to rip the company off for millions of dollars with a computer virus. It does not work. And I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it.
It's been 2 decades.
It has. It's been a long time. So if you haven't seen it, you really should get on shit like that. The main character, whose name is Peter Gibbons, tries to get the money back, and all evidence of the crime is wiped out because of one employee named Milton, who was just disgruntled and moved around the building so often that he threatened to set the building on fire. Nobody took him seriously, but he actually did it. And the last scene of the movie is Milton never having to work again in an island resort, having found the money that Peter tried to return. It's a beautiful movie. Like, it's full of actors that I really like.
Yeah. Stephen Root as Milton is
perfect.
Fantastic.
Example. He's one of my favorite actors because he just, anytime there's like a weird character that just has to be flamboyant in a non-threatening way, they call Stephen Root.
Yeah, I mean he's Jimmy James from News Radio. He's Bill Daltrey from King of the Hill.
Right. He was the DJ in Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Yeah, I have not seen all of that. I've seen most of it, but like the Comedy Central edit.
Yeah, which is funny for different reasons.
Yeah. Lord.
I remember watching I watched The Big Lebowski on Comedy Central once, and it had John Goodman screaming, "This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps." And the line in the movie is, "This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass." I will watch movies on TV just for that.
Yeah, there's a podcast I was listening to, and they're talking about how on Good Son, Macaulay Culkin has a line like "Don't fuck with me," or you fucked with me, but they
Right.
didn't get someone to dub that one line, so it's just an adult and like deep voice saying, "This is what happens when you French with me."
I don't think that's what happens when you French with Macaulay Culkin.
I mean, you probably die.
I mean, a lot of things will happen, probably not that. Also in the movie, playing the like the worst, just douchiest boss in modern cinema history is Gary Cole as Bill Lumbergh.
Yeah.
Gary Cole played the dad in the Brady Bunch movies, and he voiced Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, which is an Adult Swim show that I like a lot. Gary Cole, he does a ton of voices on Family Guy too. Like Gary Cole, he's just a character actor that I really like. Like he was in Pineapple Express too. Like he pops up small parts in a ton of movies. Those kinds of actors are my favorite ones.
Yeah, like character actors, like Margot Martindale, or
Exactly. Dave Herman was in Office Space.
Yeah.
He was like, that's a guy who mostly just does voiceover. Like that's how I know him. He played Roberto the Stabbing Robot on Futurama, and he plays Michael Bolton in Office Space.
Yeah. Oh, that. Wow.
One of the best lines in Office Space is when, because there's a character whose name is Michael Bolton, and he hates Michael Bolton's music. Like he says, when he was 12, there was nothing wrong with that name until he was 12. Then that no talent ass clown started getting famous and winning Grammys. And his friend says, "Well, why don't you just go by Mike?" And he says, "Why should I have to change? He's the one who sucks."
Yeah.
I use that like in real life probably 3 times a week on average.
All right.
I'll
Okay.
just say, "Why should I change? He's the one who sucks."
Okay. So, what's your favorite part about Office Space?
My favorite part about Office Space is like because when they learn about the layoffs, it doesn't go into like a fight the power kind of thing where they get in Lumbergh's face and everything. It's just the moral of the story is to just like accept that most people don't like their jobs, and if you can't find a job that you like, then be happy anyway. Like it's a real simple moral, but it's like as a 20-year-old, that was important for me to hear because I would go on to work in a lot of offices and find out all that shit is true and it's worse than it is in the movie.
Oh yeah, when I finished college, I went on like 200 or 300 interviews, and I think I landed 2 jobs in total, and they were both dog shit. One was selling cruises to people who won them at like county fairs and shit like that. So people would
Call center.
So, yeah, I did like 5 calls. I maintain that if you like every call center I've ever worked in, I think was mildly illegal, but like which is like this close to being illegal.
Right. Yeah, like you were suspicious, but not suspicious enough to jeopardize the job.
Oh yeah. And each time I was like, I could quit.
I probably have a combined 15 years call center under my belt.
Yikes.
Everything about it reminds me of Office Space. The fact that he has 8 bosses and his only motivation to do a good job is to just not be hassled by 8 different people.
Right.
And
I remember working in a call
offices
center. I was in a call center once, and like I didn't know they were listening in on our calls. Like I sort of knew, but I didn't know like when. And then like this little douche nozzle, he's like, "Did you just hang up on someone?" And I was like, "Yeah." They stopped talking to me. And he goes, "Well, why didn't you go to the next part of the script?" And I was like, "Because they stopped talking."
Yeah, I've had to sit like across the desk from a supervisor and listen to calls. And like, I don't know, like in Office Space, they kind of touch on it. They probably could have expanded on this, but in the middle of the movie, Peter starts just like not caring about keeping the job. He goes to a hypnotist in the film, and he wants the hypnotist to just like zonk him out so that after he gets home from work, instead of being depressed, he wants to think he's been fishing all day or something.
Yeah.
So it was an occupational hypnotherapist that his friends give him shit for going with his girlfriend to.
Yeah.
And so he gets him under hypnosis, and then the doctor suffers a massive coronary and dies while he's still kind of zonked out. So he's sort of in like a dreamy state for the rest of the movie because the doctor died before he could bring him out. But I'm just going to, the lighting is going to get weird. I'm just going to get a lighter real quick. A really good scene in the movie is when Peter has his interview with the efficiency experts, because he like runs down everything he hates about office culture. And like it was so ahead of its time because a lot of that shit didn't even start happening until like the mid 2000s. But like Peter's major point was that most offices are run in a way that motivates people to work just hard enough to not get fired. And I don't know. And like there's also commentary in it about like American values, because like Peter and his friends talk about what would you do if you had $1 million? And the one who's like the character who's not American is the only one who would use it wisely. Like he said he would give half of it to his friend who works in securities and half of it to his friend who works in mutual funds.
Right.
This is the point of the exercise, but I don't know.
I think Diedrich Bader had the best line. He's like, if I had $1 million, I'd do 2 chicks at once.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hell yeah, man. I figure I could hook that up if I was a millionaire.
Diedrich Bader
is another actor who pops up everywhere. He plays Batman on the new Harley Quinn cartoon. He was on the Drew Carey show for like 20 years.
Yeah, I know. I know the Drew Carey show very well. He's on American Housewife. He was on Veep for a little bit.
Yeah,
that was a surprisingly good role.
He played Jethro in the Beverly Hillbillies movie. Like he's been around forever, and he pops up in random spots. Like look who I'm talking to. You probably have not seen the Harley Quinn cartoon on the.
I've seen previews for it on Facebook, and I've thought about seeing if any of my friends have a login, so that I could watch it, because it does look interesting. It looks just interesting enough that I want to know what happens, and not interesting enough that I'm going to do any work to see what happens.
Right. That's how I saw it too. I got a login from a friend of mine. I'm not going to get my own account, but Diedrich Bader as Batman is worth watching that show.
They just released season 2, and I only know that because the ad popped up, and like, you get 7 days free, and I was like, ugh, do I want 7 days of this? Because I don't want anything else on the network.
I know. Do you really want to burn another green dot card?
I'm on someone gave me their login for Disney Plus, and the only thing I've done is watch seasons of The Simpsons that I have on my hard drive.
Right.
I already have them downloaded. I could plug the hard drive in, but it's easier to watch it on the TV.
It is. I've seen nothing on Disney Plus. I'm not ready for a new relationship with the streaming service.
Oh, you're not missing anything. Plus Disney's awful at the moment. Yeah, I think that's about enough on Office Space. Let's pivot over to The Newsroom, a very different kind of Office Space. It's an Aaron Sorkin production. Aaron Sorkin is famous for The Walk and Talks. Run us through your relationship with The Newsroom.
I discovered The Newsroom at a time, actually in a call center when I was working for DirecTV. I got a hookup at home to where like they want you to watch everything so you can tell customers about it. So I was watching everything, and like I was watching the pilot episodes of everything. And if any pilots grabbed me, I would then watch into the show. And the pilot for The Newsroom, like just the first scene, is one of my favorite scenes in all of television for like the past decade.
First scene is so widely shared on Facebook.
It is.
The movie I saw earlier today was, oh god, we were just talking about, The Matrix, and I was like, the first scene of The Newsroom is another thing like The Matrix, where it's so often quoted, and it's so often like screen capped, and it sucks that they didn't show that you don't see the whole scene, because in the whole scene it plays out slightly different than him just losing his shit. It's
like you can look it up on YouTube if you want, but watch the full scene at the beginning of the episode, because The Newsroom is about a news anchor named Will McAvoy who up until this point has sort of presented himself as a centrist, neither liberal nor conservative, so that he can appeal to the widest audience he can. uh, it starts off with Will and two other pundits, one liberal, one conservative, talking to a Q&A at a college, and the moderator called him the Jay Leno of late night, saying he's popular because he doesn't bother anybody.
Yeah.
And this college sophomore asks a question to all three people: what makes America the best country in the world? And his answer, like he just said the New York Jets because he wanted to avoid the question, but the moderator held him to an answer, and he looks up into the audience, and this is sort of like never really confirmed in the episode. He thinks he sees an old friend of his holding up a sign that says it's not, but it can be. And just sort of getting lost in a memory, he answers the question saying it's not the best country in the world. And like he just rattles off like so many weird, like accurate statistics saying America is number one in 3 different categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and number 1 in defense spending, where they spend more than the next 25 countries, or the next 26 countries combined, 25 of which are allies, which do not require defense spending. And then after that, he goes into sort of a monologue about the news, about how the key to making America the best country in the world again is an informed electorate. And from there he just sort of plays it off as a minor breakdown from Vertigo Medicine. But from that point, he gets a new producer, someone who he used to be engaged to, and turns his cable news into like the ultimate news program in unbiased, unpandering, just like true news. And this was a good like several years before Donald Trump started calling everything fake news. So this is another show that was really ahead of its time.
Yeah. I usually try to decide if I'm going to watch. Like, it was tough for me to watch the second episode that we did, because I was like, I really want to watch the whole series. But then after watching the second episode, I realized that it doesn't necessarily have like a serial plot. So like it's serialized to an extent.
Right. Well,
just...
when the show originally came out, it would air on HBO. Like the events in the show were always like 3 months behind real time.
Yeah.
So if there was like a big news story, the newsroom will cover it like 4 months after it happens in the real world. Like after all the reporting in real time has been done. That probably sounds real confusing, but like their episode about Occupy Wall Street was a good 4 months after Occupy Wall Street was in the news.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole point of the show, is to take like not a current news story, but the last current news story and give different perspectives on it. And the second episode I said you should watch besides the pilot was episode 7,
5-1, the episode about getting Osama bin Laden. And this is a packed cast. Like Olivia Munn was in this episode, right. Dev Patel,
Terry Crews.
That was a wild moment. Terry Crews, the bodyguard.
Terry Crews, after Will McAvoy gets death threats throughout season 1, the network requires him to have a bodyguard, and it's played by Terry Crews.
Yeah. McAvoy trying, like, normally I like to go like bit by bit through the episode, but like it's so Aaron Sorkin's, like, there's no like, it's hard to like chop it up bit by bit because it's just one long walk and talk. Like, right. His episodes could honestly be, one long static shot.
Aaron Sorkin is in love with TV production.
Yeah.
Like, because the Newsroom is behind the scenes on the news, and he did the show on ABC called Sports Night.
Which is behind the scenes. Yeah. I did see an episode of that, and I was a kid, and I was like, I don't really know what this is. It felt like it was supposed to be a comedy, but it wasn't funny.
Yeah. Sports Night was not a great show. Because of that show, I almost didn't watch the Newsroom. I was like, not a fan of Aaron Sorkin, but after the Newsroom, he was redeemed for me. Yeah. Like, that's not often someone can make a terrible show that I don't like, and then years later I'll find another show they do. Not only will I watch it, but enjoy it. That's very rare.
Yeah. Normally I have pages and pages of notes, but I was pretty riveted from the first moment of episode 1, so I didn't really get to it. Here's a little thing that I like to do with the series, with each new show. Try to figure out what happens between the 2 episodes that I watched, serial-wise. So normally I watch episodes seasons apart, but luckily today it was just a couple episodes. So I think I got a pretty down tight. The Maggie and Don storyline, which seems so ham-fisted, and then the love triangle between Maggie and Don and
Jim.
Jim. And isn't Jim Harper the same guy from like it's the same name from The Office?
Very close. It was Jim Halpert.
Albert. All right.
There were, yeah, two
I was like,
actors that look real similar and played real similar characters with strikingly similar names.
yeah, it was just a real banner fucking year for naming characters.
For White Jims. Like, that, it was a good year for White Jims.
They're killing it. Lord knows they haven't had enough. Lord knows they need a little bit more.
White Jims and ties need a leg up, goddammit.
Yeah, so I assume most of the season is just a back and forth between Mac and Will's power struggle. I love Sam Waterston in this.
Oh, yeah. Sam Waterston plays Charlie Skinner, the president of the news division of the network. If you don't know who Sam Waterston is, he was Jack McCoy on Law and Order for a billion years. He's an actor I really like. He was the dad in John Waters' Serial Mom. Like, he's been in a lot of random stuff, and he's always really good. And he was especially good in this because, like, he was a bitter, like, his character is certainly bitter, but not cynical.
I love the line, I was a Marine, god damn it, I don't care how many push-ups how many power bars you eat, I will beat the
pilot
shit
when he's yelling at That's such a good one. He's yelling at Don for going from Will's show to Elliot Hirsch's show. And like, imagine Sam Waterston yelling at a dude in his late 20s probably, saying, "God damn it, Don, I will beat the shit out of you. I don't care how many power bars you ate today." Jane Fonda shows up in the newsroom.
Yeah.
As like the president of the whole network. Like, I can't remember if Jane Fonda's character comes up between episode 1 and 7 or if it's just later, because the show only ran for like 3 seasons.
Yeah, and it looks like it was very short seasons, like shorter than Veep. I think I think I'm going to add this to my list, which makes it two. If anyone's keeping track, and I don't think they are, if anyone's keeping track, it is 2 shows that I've started watching before this that are both on HBO, and I like them both. The other one is The Leftovers.
Leftovers was nice. I watched all of season 1. And like, it was like a 1.5 year wait between season 1 and season 2, so I just didn't catch up with season 2. But Leftovers was another good HBO one.
Yeah,
that was another one I had to watch for DirecTV.
Who's your favorite character on Newsnight?
Charlie Skinner, probably. But Olivia Munn definitely gets like special mention, because there's an episode, probably season 3 somewhere, where she has a guy on her show and just verbally castrates him about like celebrity culture and stalking and stuff. It's really good. Nice. So Olivia Munn's character was great, but Charlie Skinner is like, I wish that character was real so he could produce actual news. Like, there was a line in the pilot episode where he says, or maybe it was the second episode, where he talks about the 18 to 25 demographic, and he says, "I don't think their fucking heads are going to explode if we don't pander to them for 1 hour out of 24.
Yeah, I like it. I will say the only down thing to the newsroom is it seems it is heavy-handed.
It's very heavy-handed, which is to be expected from Aaron Sorkin. But I mean, like, what I like about the newsroom is the cast, because you can see this in episode 7. Natalie Morales, she plays the girlfriend of one of the Newsnight staffers. But if you don't know her, she was on the Santa Clarita Diet as the lesbian sheriff's deputy. She was on she's a TV actress. She just had her own show on NBC for a while. But she was really good. Her character, because once everyone got the news that Osama bin Laden is killed, different people react to that in different ways. Like, you had 3 characters who were stuck on a plane. They gave the news to the pilot, and they almost cried with joy. Terry Crews was allowed to be the first person to tell the 2 cops that were harassing him earlier. and it brought them together. But Natalie Morales' character, her father had died in 9/11, and while everybody was celebrating, she was just stuck in this horrible memory.
I totally thought that was what's her face? Rosario Dawson.
Well, I thought that at first too. I looked into it, like when the Newsroom first came on, I was like, fucking A, Rosario Dawson too, and then it wasn't. I was a little disappointed, but Natalie Morales is also really good.
Poor Natalie. I wonder how often she gets that, because I was like,
not only does she look like Natalie Morales, or not only does she look like Rosario Dawson, but her name is also the name of someone who hosts the Tonight Show, or not the Today Show.
Oh God.
I think her Twitter handle is not that Natalie Morales.
Yeah, it's a really fun show. I'm intrigued to go back and see things, especially because all of the news stories they're covering, I was old enough to, I was an adult when all of them happened. I remember where I was when we got Bin Laden. I remember where I was when the BP oil spill happened.
Yep.
And it was intrigued.
And yeah, that episode was an accurate reflection of when the news hit that Bin Laden was killed, because I remember in 2011 when that happened, the news broke into whatever the fuck I was watching. Then I went on Facebook because I'm an idiot, and that's where I go for news confirmation, is Facebook.
Obviously.
But I saw the whole spectrum of emotion out of my friends, because you had some people who were always xenophobic, and this just pushed them over the top. That's why you don't fuck with America, stuff like that. Then you had people condemning them for being chest beaters, and then you had people condemning them for being soft. It was.
Yeah, we like to eat our own tail. We are not.
Yeah. That's what I like about the Newsroom, because not everybody reacted to stories the same way, and even though it was heavy-handed like an Aaron Sorkin show, there were multiple heavy hands.
Yeah, I guess it's a little easier for me to enjoy it because most of the heavy hands are pointing or headed in the direction that I typically lean. But
right, that's because we're part of the liberal entertainment complex.
Oh, we were. We were. That's gone.
We are on that arm of the Illuminati now, Dwayne.
Yeah. Oh, thank God. I was so worried I wasn't going to get invited.
Right. Don't worry about it.
Who's your least favorite character on the Newsroom?
Probably Don Kiefer, especially in season 1. His character does get better as the show goes forward, but in season 1 he's kind of a dick. He didn't like what Will said in the pilot. So while he was on vacation, he just he quit his job and went to another show without finding a replacement. And I didn't like the way he was with Maggie.
Yeah.
Maggie wasn't perfect, but she definitely deserved better than him.
Yeah, it seems like a real bad relationship. They don't seem like they fit together, but it seems like he needed to exist for Maggie's character to have any growth. I really like Maggie. I hope she gets better. As the show started, she seemed pretty shaky, but then she seemed like she was getting it together.
Season two starts with a huge arc for Maggie.
Yeah, Mac is good. I like Mac. I'm not a fan of this Jim and Maggie will they won't they nonsense, but then again, I hate that in all shows.
Yeah.
And it's
one thing that happens before episode 7, and I don't think they mention it here, just to give you something to look for, is you mentioned the power dynamic between Will and Mac.
Yeah.
Because they were previously in a relationship and now they work together, and Will is her boss. But Mac accidentally sends an email that was intended just for Sloan to the entire company, talking about how when she and Will were together, she had cheated on him, and that's why they broke up.
He's not that had not come up. Yeah.
Right. So then, the entire staff knows about that. That's a really good episode.
Yikes. Yeah, the stuff that's not the Newsroom, it seems like it's almost 2 entirely different shows. The stuff that's in the Newsroom, the stuff that's outside the Newsroom.
Right.
But
that was Don's character. He was king of the B story.
All right. So what are you binging these days? What are you working on? What are you watching?
Uh, Tonight is the last episode of Better Call Saul. I've been binging that to coincide with tonight,
The
so I can get to
series
the end of
finale?
that. It might be the series finale because of the Corona pandemic. You don't know how many shows are going to be dropped for logistical purposes. That might be one of them. I
Well,
think
there's
this
also
might be the end because Breaking Bad lasted for 5 years, and this is the end of Better Call Saul's fifth year.
Breaking Bad
But
was only
that's
on for 5 years. That show, I
yeah,
swear, I heard about that shit for like. I guess I was in college 10 years ago, and then it was on for 5 years, and it has been five from that. I
yeah,
had to watch a pilot episode of that in one of my screenwriting classes, and the only thought I had was, God, this is depressing. Like, this is what I was like. This isn't a like. This show can't fly in other countries because there's no way that you're gonna tell me, an educator has cancer and instead of getting help, he has to make meth.
right. I mean, Breaking Bad was like I really liked that show. It was a good show, but the villains had to be ultra villains. Like you had to keep going from bad people to worse people. Better Call Saul. In watching that from beginning to end, it just I don't know. The characters are just more real, and like not every episode has to be pulse pounder like it was in Breaking Bad.
All right.
Uh, so that's what I'm watching. I also finished BoJack Horseman last month.
Oh, I haven't finished the second half of the last season.
That's a fantastic show, though.
It started to get too depressing, and I was like, this isn't why I come here.
Speaking of Aaron Paul, like Aaron Paul's character in Breaking Bad is my second favorite of his. BoJack Horseman's house guest being the first.
Uh,
Hilarious on that show.
what's his name?
Todd Chavez.
Yeah, Todd. All right. Where can people find you? Where are you at on the internet?
My first name is spelled Charley. Knowing that will help you find me. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And I don't have my own YouTube channel, but I'm on YouTube a lot. Using that spelling, you can find me.
All right, and I am on Twitter. I'm Life's Party. On Instagram, if you can find this, you've already found me. This is on my YouTube channel, and soon to be a podcast coming to you wherever you are. Like, subscribe, send me dirty emails. I don't know how to do this yet. There's no sponsor, so like I have nowhere to cut you. But I'm Dwayne Duke, and we'll catch up with you guys next
Brought to you by
time.
legal marijuana.